Hello, 8th grade students. This is Mr. Roush, and we're going to talk about Module 5.1 for Pre-Algebra. So, writing linear equations from situations and graphs. Our essential question is, how do you write an equation to model a linear relationship given a graph or a description? So, we're going to explore really quick. So, Greta makes clay mugs and bowls as gifts at the Crafty Studio. She pays a membership fee of $15 a month and an equipment fee of $3 per hour to use the potter's wheel, table, and kiln. Write an equation in the form y equals mx plus b that Greta can use to calculate her monthly cost. Now, if you remember before, the m is your slope and the b is your y-intercept or initial value. Y-intercept, and here is your slope. So what is the input value, the x? So this is what changes. So if you look at the equation, that $15 a month never changes. No matter what you do, it's always going to be $15 a month. But if you look, it's $3 per hour. So the input value, or the x, whatever changes, is the number of hours. That's the number of hours that you use the equipment. Now, y, what is the output? So the output is usually going to be your total. So this is the total money to use the studio. So like if they work 0 hours, they're going to still pay $15. If they work 10 hours, they're going to be paying 10 times 3, which is 30, plus 15, which would be $45. So for part B, during April, Greta does not use the equipment at all. So if she doesn't use the equipment, she still has to pay, or what are the number of hours? 0. What will the total cost be? She still has to pay the $15 membership fee, so she's still going to pay $15. Then what would the y-intercept or the b be in the equation? Remember, when your x value is 0, your y value is your y-intercept. So it's going to be 15. Now, the next one says, Greta spends 8 hours in May for a total cost of the $15 that stays the same plus 8 times 3, which is 24. So 24 plus 15 is $39. In June, she spends 11 hours. So you're going to, instead of the 8 right here, we're going to plug in an 11. So it's going to be 33 plus 15 is 48. So from May to June, the change in your x values, which are the number of hours, if you look, it goes from 8 to 11. So it goes up 3. So here's the 8 to 11. Now from May to June, the change in the y values are the ones that we wrote here. So it goes from 39 to 48, so it goes up 9. Now what will be the slope? Remember, change in y, which is your 9, that's your y, but change in y divided by change in x, they're both positive. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So your slope is 3. And you're going to write it like y equals something x plus b. And that's where you find your y-intercept. Your y-intercept goes for the b. So your y-intercept is 15, and your slope is 3. So your equation is y equals 3x plus 15. So on the next page, we need to write an equation from a graph. So if you recall, you need a y equals the slope times x plus your y-intercept. So on a graph, you can use information presented in a graph to write an equation in slope-intercept form. Usually on a graph, your y-intercept is easy to find. Like right here, it's where it crosses this y. And this crosses the y at 8. So we can just put an 8 right there. Now you have to find your slope. And to find your slope, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can find 2 perfect points on the graph, which looks like there's one and there's one. And you can do rise divided by run. So these are going up by 2s. So it goes 8 to 18. So it's going to go up 10. And then to the right, it goes 2, 4, 6, 8. 10 divided by 8. So it goes up 10 and to the right 8. 10 divided by 8 is 1.25. So your slope is 1.25. So all you have to do is plug this in to your m. So your final equation is going to be y equals 1.25x plus 8. And you can see this is linear, but it's not proportional because it has a y-intercept of 8. And if you look at the graph, it does not cross at 0, 0. So it's not proportional, but it is still linear. So now, what does the value of the slope represent in the context? So it says a video club charges a one-time membership fee plus a rental fee for each DVD borrowed. So it's going to change. Your X value is going to be the rental fee. So the X is the rental fee. Now describe the meaning of the y-intercept. How much does it cost just to join the club? Is your $8. That means if you have 0 rentals, you're still going to pay $8. So the y-intercept is the one-time membership fee. Okay, so now if you look at the your turn, it says the cash register subtracts, so it takes away $2.50 from a $25 coffee cafe gift card for every medium coffee the customer buys. Use the graph to write an equation in slope-intercept form to represent the situation. So it's going to be a y equals slope x plus your b. Now, if you just look right away, you could find your y-intercept. Remember, this is the y. It crosses at 25. So that's what you start off with. That's your y-intercept, and it's going down, so you know it's going to be a negative slope. And you can even just see that it's subtracting $2.50 for each coffee. So you could just say, hey, it's going to be minus $2.50, or we can do rise divided by run. So from here it goes 25, down 25, divided by run would be positive 10, which is negative $2.50. So negative $2.50. So what this graph says is you can get 10 coffees and now your gift card is gone. You have no money left on it. Okay, so now we have to write an equation from a description. This one ends up being a little bit more difficult because you actually have to look at some of the information. It says the rent charged for space in an office building is a linear relationship related to the size of the space rented. Write an equation in slope-intercept form for the rent at West Main Street office rentals. Identify the input and output variables. If you look here at this space, your input is the amount of square feet. And your output is going to be the monthly rent, which is in bold. So write the information given in the problem as ordered pairs. So the first ordered pair you're going to have is 600, 750. With your 600 being your X, 750 is your Y. Then your next ordered pair is 900, 1150. So that's your X, that's your Y. Now you're going to have to do change in Y divided by change in X. So if you look, we're going to do change in Y. So we're going to do 1150 minus 750 divided by 900 minus 600. So this is going to be 400 divided by 300. So your slope is going to actually be 4/3. So 4 over 3. If you really wanted to write 1.3 repeating, that works as well. So you can find your slope from two sets of ordered pairs. Now this is the new one, is step 4, which is find the y-intercept. So we have to put this into y equals mx plus b. So if you have y equals 4/3 x plus b, because we don't know our b yet. Now this is the weird part that you're going to have to do, is you actually have to plug in a number for your y and your x. And you can use any of these two ordered pairs that you had from the beginning parts. So you can use 600 and 750, 600 being your x, 750 being your y, or you can use 900 and 1150. So what we're going to do is use the first one, the one that I circled in green. So do you see our x is 600? We're going to substitute that for this x right here. And then for the 750 is going to go in for the y. So it's going to be 750 equals 4/3. Now our x was 600. We have to substitute it. So this is going to be times 600 plus b. So if you look, the only letter that we have to solve for is b. So it's going to be a lot easier just to isolate the variable and solve for b. So what we have to do is multiply 4/3 times 600, which ends up being 800. So you get 750 equals 800 plus b. Now when you solve for b, you guys all remember what we're going to do is subtract 800 from both sides, because you're doing the inverse operation. And this is going to be 0. We're still left with b on this side. So b equals -50. Now what we have to do is substitute for the slope-intercept. So this is part 5. So it's going to be y equals, our slope that we found in the beginning was 4/3. 4/3 x minus 50. And that is the equation. So if you look at part 4, it says, without graphing, tell whether the graph of this equation rises or falls from left to right. So think about slope, dude. Is it going to be a positive slope or a negative slope? Hopefully you said positive, and it's going to go up. So it's a positive slope of 4/3. So we'll do a few more problems with this just to help you out. So if you look here, and you can use this as, you can write some notes for this, or you can kind of follow along. But we're going to write the slope, the y-intercept, and equation for each situation. So the race begins at a rate of 1.5 meters per second. So that's going to be your slope, because you see it's going to be per second, with x being your second. So slope is going to be 1.5. Your y-intercept is going to be a 0. They don't have anything there. So it's going to be y equals mx plus b. Your b is 0, and your y-intercept is 1.5. Now, if you look at number 2, I kind of got cut off, but it says 50 azalea plants arrive at a florist shop on the first day of the week. After that, they arrive at an average of 75 plants per day. How many plants will be at the shop after T days? So you got to think about how many plants they start with. So it says 50. So that's going to be your y equals something x plus 50 is your y-intercept. Now, they arrive at an average of how many plants per day? That's going to be your 75. So if it's the first day, and they have 1 for your x, it's going to be 75 times 1, which is 75 plus 50. So at the first day, they'll have 125. The second day, plug in a 2 for your x. 75 times 2 is 150, plus 50 is 200. So that's a way that you can determine those. So if you look at number 1, it says a sales associate is given a $500 hiring bonus with a new job. So the initial value or your hiring bonus, that's what you start out with. This is going to be your $500. So she earns an average commission of $250 per week for the next 12 weeks. So how much do they earn per week? That per means it's going to be your slope. So $250. That's the equation that you need. And then you're going to have to plug in the x. The x, what we're saying, is 12. So it's going to be the total cost, y, equals 250 times 12 plus 500. So 250 times 12 is what, $3,000? So it's going to be $3,000 plus 500 is $3,500. A farm has 75 acres of wheat. The farmer can harvest the wheat from 12 acres per day. In how many days will all of the fields be harvested? So when you have 0 left. So they start off with 75. That's your initial value. And then it's harvested at 12 acres per day. So here you're going to put a minus 12. So if you look at a graph, it's going to start off kind of up here and it's going to go down because the y is how many acres you have left. So it says, in how many days will all of the fields be harvested? So what you're actually going to have to do is plug in a 0, which means there's going to be nothing left. So you're going to do 0 equals negative 12x plus 75. Then you have to solve for your x. So you want to isolate your variable, get it all by itself, which is here. So you're going to do minus 75 minus 75. Negative 75 equals negative 12x. And then when you divide negative 75 divided by negative 12, you get 6.25 days. So they can harvest the wheat field in 6.25 days. If you take a look at we'll skip a few of these. If you look at number 5 and 6, we want to write an equation in the form y equals mx plus b. So for number 5, it's going to be your y equals slope x plus initial value. So if you look at this, where does it cross the y? Look, it crosses at 0. That's a 0. Now you have to do rise divided by run. So if you look, it goes up 20 over 1. Y equals 20x plus 0. You could also keep it as just y equals 20x. Now for number 6, if you have your y equals slope x plus b, or your initial value, here it's a little bit backwards, but your x is here. And if you recall, when your x is 0, your y is your y-intercept. So you have 0, 360. So your y-intercept is 360. Now if you look at your ordered pairs, we have 0, 360, and then you can have 10, 300. So if you do change in y divided by change in x, you can do 360 minus 300, which is 60. So if you go 360 minus 300 divided by, if we started here, we have to start with a 0. 0 minus 10. So it's going to be 60 over negative 10, which is negative 6. So that is the equation. Y equals negative 6x plus 360. So that's the lesson for today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and I'll help you out. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.